So with this post-Gnosticism series I've been doing, we've dealt mostly with the likes of the Urantia book and the change from neo-Gnosticism to post-Gnosticism. Now we can simply call this, the playground of the rich white elites, which we continue to see to this day. But there is another factor, and that is the Jews. Now, this isn't some sort of Nazi rant or neo-Nazi rant or post-Nazi rant. This is a simple fact of what the Jews have been involved with, and it affects us this very day. You can try and speak about Jews, there's a good chance you will be arrested. Certainly in most Western countries. And I was told a story, though I cannot verify it, that a man was arrested for referring to Jews as oven jumpers. That's it, nothing else. Apparently he got arrested for it. And that's in Australia. Now, what we have to examine is where Jews became involved in the likes of world politics, world economy, from the period 1930 to 1950. And we will see that this does affect us to this very day. So I will go through some factors and you can take it from there and look these up for yourself. Remember, do not believe anything I tell you. Check it for yourself. Now, let's talk about Paul Warburg and Jacob Schiff. Two Jews got into the banking industry and indeed the stock market industry where they were big players. And they came out pretty much on top after the Wall Street crash. But let's talk about Paul Warburg and the things he was involved in. In 1904, he actually financed the Japanese in their war against Russia, which the Russians lost. So he was a big hater of Russia. He moved to the United States from Germany, as I understand, and he was the one who pushed the US Federal Reserve, or certainly he gave the plan for central banking in the United States. He supported the Russian Revolution. Remember, there were two revolutions in Russia. The first one overthrew the Tsar. The second one brought in the Bolsheviks, who were run and led by Jews because the foundation and the ideology behind the Bolsheviks was Karl Marx, another Jew. So we cannot say that it's just a series of coincidences when there is planning behind it. Now, in regards to central banking, you should look up the secret meeting on Jekyll Island. It's in Georgia, as I understand, where the Warburgs, the Schiffs, who were actually related, which is something that's not commonly spread, and the Morgans, and oh well, just look up Jekyll Island. That's with two L's at the end, and you will see this is where modern banking has come from. Reserve lending has come from, where banks these days, and indeed entire economies of nations, only have about 3 or 4% of their money in cash. So coins and banknotes are only 3 to 4% of your economy. And the rest of it is credit, debit, and money's worth. And one thing to look up is the company of Kuhn, Loeb and Company, who basically hijacked not only the American economy but the world's economy. And we said this today, how Jews get involved, the likes of Goldman Sachs, from which the Australian Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull worked for and indeed ended up as Prime Minister. Funny thing about Malcolm, he never likes to talk about his mother. I think that's because she was Jewish and his electorate is actually Jewish. And there was a representative of that electorate, went by the name of Peter King, quite popular. But when Malcolm put his name on the voting ballot, all the Jews voted for him. Why? But let's go on to others. And indeed, what I'm telling you is the truth. The Frankfurt School, this is where all your transgender crap comes from. All these things. Let's see. The Frankfurt School was heavily into psychology, psychiatry, social comment and social theory. And look what we got today. Again, all Jews for the most part. And the theories and dialectics, same thing. You got Marxist dialectic and same foundation. And the Frankfurt School more or less began in the 1930s, but in the 1960s that's when it hit. And that will come, my next clip, where I show you where the hippie movement came from, which still persists. Now, just because some scumbags got a haircut and a suit doesn't mean the ideology has gone. So we got him. We also got Lev Davidovich Bronstein, who still impacts the world today. You say, well, who's he? You know him as Leon Trotsky, and again, a Jew. And remember, 2 Russian revolutions, but the second one, the Bolshevik Revolution, was not meant to be for Russia only. Their main target was take Russia and then go to Germany. And that has been a constant aim, and it has been achieved. Angela Merkel, you check out her family bloodlines on both sides, but mostly the mother's side, Jewish. From the family of Wax or Wax. So people say, oh, it's just coincidence, so you can't say that or we'll put you in jail if you do. I'm saying it, and because it is true. Now, from these things we got the foundation for the problems today, which finally kicked off in the 1960s with the hippie movement. What we have between the 1930s and the 1950s, thereabouts, is the foundation for it. So, but there was one problem. He went by the name of Adolf Hitler, and he hated Jews, and he was determined to kill them. It's as though he knew something was coming up. So Now, am I saying Hitler's a good guy? No. But, I think he probably delved into the occult to some extent, and looking at the things that occurred in the 30s especially, theosophy, those starting to make an impact in the Western European world. So the old Adolf might have been onto something. But that was then and this is now. Finally, in regards to hippies, there's one name we should not ignore. Abbie Hoffman. Now, Abbie Hoffman was an atheist, like most Jews are today. In fact, the overwhelming majority of Jews today are in fact atheists. He was born in 1936 and he killed himself in 1989. So he was a manic depressive, or what people call today bipolar. Funny thing, he had a master's degree in psychology and a Bachelor of Arts as well. Now, Abbie had this habit of married women and dumping them. He married someone else in 1967 who went by the name of Anita Kushner. Now, whether this woman is somehow related to Jared Kushner, I cannot tell you. I do not know. But the Jewish tribalism, the families of the Midi tribe, and part of the greater whole. But maybe. And, in regards to Jews, I've done clips on Jews before, exposing how the Talmud says it's okay to fuck your kids. And it does. What it says about Jesus Christ being in hell in a boiling pool of shit. What it says about the Virgin Mary being a common whore. And what I do want to point out is that the Jews of today are not related to the ancient Israelites. So the people that were written about in the Old Testament and the New Testament, completely different people. No relation whatsoever. These people are descendants of converts, the people who call themselves Jews today. Now, to say that the Jews of today are related to Moses and what was called Israel, or the land of the Canaans and whatever, is about as valid as saying, well, the Filipinos should rule the Vatican because they just happen to be Catholics. It is not valid in the slightest. So if you want to check out previous clips I've done on YouTube, yeah, go ahead. I stand by what I say. But from 1930 to 1950, this was the foundation for what we would call the swinging 60s, the hippie movement and so on, because those who formated this movement were born in that time period. And also, you say to someone Israel, you're thinking strip of land south of Lebanon, west of Jordan. No. That's only to the Goyim, which is you. But between Jews, Yisrael means the entire world. So, as I mentioned before, you've got Zionism, which is an atheist movement, and has claimed Israel, the political state, not the world, but it would expand itself to include the world, and more or less it has. Now with the tithing, countries sending millions, billions of dollars every year to Israel, the banking industry, which is based on nothing, we have seen the foundation for the likes of the hippie movement to come in. And people think hippies are dirty, unwashed grubs. No, there was an ideology behind that. Global peace, global government. And it still stands today. Just because, these people of the hippies got suits and ties, cut their hair, got into banking and the stock market, doesn't mean they threw away their beliefs. So let's look at it briefly. You've got the white rich elites who absolutely despise anyone middle class or under, and you've got the Jews who are no relation to ancient Israel. So both have a global agenda, and both should be fighting each other. But no, what we've seen is that they have combined. And this is where our problems come from today. So, in the next clip, let's deal with the hippie movement.